The farmhouse kitchen. This style draws its identity from the working kitchens of rural American homes, where function came before everything else and the space was built to handle serious, sustained cooking. Wide plankwood floors, open shelving, apron-front sinks, and large wooden tables that doubled as prep surfaces are all hallmarks of the original farmhouse kitchen. Nothing was decorative for its own sake. Every element existed because it served a purpose in a household that preserved food, baked bread regularly, and fed large families or seasonal workers. The modern version of the farmhouse kitchen keeps those practical roots but softens them with more refined materials and finishes, shiplap walls, matte black hardware, and carefully chosen vintage-inspired fixtures. It became enormously popular in the 2010s, driven in part by the rise of the modern farmhouse aesthetic in home design media, and it remains one of the most requested kitchen styles in new construction and renovation across the country. The craftsman kitchen. Rooted in the early 20th century arts and crafts movement, the craftsman kitchen values natural materials, visible craftsmanship, and a rejection of anything that feels mass-produced or superficial. Cabinet doors in craftsman kitchens typically feature flat recessed panels with simple, clean lines, often built from oak, cherry, or maple and finished to show the natural grain of the wood rather than hide it. Hardware is usually square or rectangular rather than ornate, often in oil-rubbed bronze or brushed nickel. The style emphasizes built-in storage, integrated design, and the sense that every element was made with care rather than assembled from a catalog. Craftsman bungalows, which were built in enormous numbers across American cities and suburbs between roughly 1905 and 1930, still carry these kitchens in various states of preservation or update, and homeowners restoring them often go to considerable effort to find period-appropriate materials and hardware that honor the original design intention. The traditional kitchen. This is the style that dominated American homes for much of the 20th century, and still represents the baseline against which most other kitchen styles define themselves. The traditional kitchen features raised panel cabinet doors, decorative moldings, ornate hardware, and layered architectural details that give the space a sense of formality and permanence. Colors tend toward warm neutrals, creams, and whites, and the overall impression is of a kitchen that has been carefully composed rather than casually assembled. Natural stone countertops, tile backsplashes with decorative borders, and furniture-style cabinetry with feet and corbels are all common elements. The traditional kitchen communicates stability and refinement, and it appeals to homeowners who want their kitchen to feel timeless rather than current. Even as more contemporary styles have gained popularity, the traditional kitchen has remained a consistent choice in formal homes, colonial and Georgian revival architecture, and households where a sense of classic order matters more than visual minimalism. The modern kitchen. Stripped of ornament and built around clean geometry, the modern kitchen emerged from 20th century design movements that sought to eliminate unnecessary decoration and let form follow function with complete honesty. Flat front cabinet doors with no visible hardware, or with sleek integrated pulls, are the defining feature. Surfaces are smooth and continuous, countertops extend without interruption, and the overall effect is one of calm, uncluttered order. Materials lean toward high-gloss lacquer, matte laminate, concrete, and polished stone, and color palettes are typically restrained, favoring whites, grays, blacks, and deep neutral tones. The modern kitchen became closely associated with urban apartments and architect-designed homes in the mid-20th century, but it spread steadily into mainstream residential design as manufacturing costs for flat-front cabinetry dropped and the aesthetic began to appear in design media aimed at a general audience. For many homeowners, the appeal is practical as much as visual, since smooth surfaces with no decorative crevices are genuinely easier to keep clean. The contemporary kitchen. Many people use the words modern and contemporary as if they mean the same thing in kitchen design, but they describe related yet distinct approaches. The modern kitchen refers to a specific design movement rooted in the early to mid-20th century. The contemporary kitchen, by contrast, reflects what is current right now, absorbing influences from multiple directions and combining them in ways that feel fresh without being rigidly committed to any single design philosophy. A contemporary kitchen might pair flat front cabinetry with warm wood tones and mixed metal hardware, or combine an industrial pendant light with a natural stone island and simple shaker-style upper cabinets. It tends to be more flexible and more personal than strict modernism, willing to layer textures and materials in ways that a purist would avoid. The contemporary kitchen changes as design culture shifts, which is both its strength and what makes it difficult to define precisely at any given moment. The transitional kitchen. This style exists specifically to bridge the gap between traditional and modern design, and it has become one of the most popular kitchen styles in American homes over the past 2 decades precisely because it appeals to such a wide range of tastes. The transitional kitchen takes the warmth, detail, and comfort of traditional design and simplifies it, removing the most ornate elements while keeping enough visual interest to avoid the austerity of pure modernism. Shaker cabinet doors are the most common choice in transitional kitchens, since the shaker style is clean enough to feel contemporary but has enough structure to feel grounded and substantial. Quartz countertops, subway tile backsplashes, and a mix of painted and wood-toned cabinetry are all typical combinations. The transitional kitchen works well in almost any home because it does not commit so strongly to a single aesthetic that it fights against the surrounding architecture. It is a style built around harmony, and for many homeowners that flexibility is exactly what they are looking for. The industrial kitchen. This style borrows its vocabulary from commercial kitchens, urban loft spaces, and the repurposed factory buildings that became fashionable living spaces in American cities starting in the 1980s and 1990s. Exposed brick, concrete floors, open metal shelving, stainless steel appliances and countertops, and pendant lights with visible Edison bulbs or metal cage shades are all defining elements. The industrial kitchen does not try to hide its structure or its materials. Pipes, ductwork, and mechanical elements are sometimes left visible as deliberate design choices rather than concealed behind finished surfaces. It is a style that communicates a certain urban authenticity, a preference for rawness and honesty over polish and refinement. In residential settings, the industrial kitchen works best in homes with open floor plans, high ceilings, and enough visual space to absorb the heaviness of metal and concrete without feeling oppressive. Softened with warm lighting and natural wood accents, it can be genuinely striking. The mid-century modern kitchen. Emerging from the post-World War II period when American optimism, new materials, and confidence in technology all converged, the mid-century modern kitchen has a look that feels simultaneously retro and effortlessly current. Clean horizontal lines, flat or minimally detailed cabinet fronts, and a love of color set it apart. Avocado green, harvest gold, turquoise, and burnt orange with a palette of the original era. And while most renovated mid-century kitchens today update the color choices, the underlying geometry and spirit of the style remain consistent. The mid-century modern kitchen also embraced new materials enthusiastically. Laminate surfaces, molded plastics, and terrazzo floors all fit naturally into the aesthetic. Homes built in this style during the 1950s and 1960s across California, the Southwest, and the post-war suburbs of major American cities often still carry these kitchens in recognizable form, and the style has attracted a devoted following among homeowners who restore rather than gut the original design. The Shaker kitchen. The Shaker style has its origins in a religious community of the same name, a celibate sect that built furniture and interiors of extraordinary simplicity and quality beginning in the late 18th century. Their philosophy held that beauty was a natural result of function and honest craft, and that decoration for its own sake was a form of vanity. The Shaker cabinet door, with its flat center panel set in a simple square frame, is one of the most enduring furniture designs in American history, and it became the dominant cabinet style in American kitchens precisely because it occupies such a natural middle ground. It is simple without being stark, structured without being ornate, and it reads equally well painted in crisp white, stained in warm wood tones, or finished in deep navy or forest green. Nearly every other kitchen style either borrows from the Shaker or defines itself in reaction to it, which is a measure of how completely the style embedded itself in the American design tradition. The coastal kitchen. Developed in the beach communities of the Atlantic seaboard, the Gulf Coast, and the Pacific Coast, the coastal kitchen translates the visual experience of living near water into an interior design language. Light, airy, and deliberately relaxed, it favors white or soft blue-gray cabinetry, natural textures like woven pendants and linen textiles, and materials that suggest the beach without becoming a literal inventory of shells and rope. Whitewashed or light-stained wood, beadboard paneling on cabinet faces or walls, and large windows that maximize natural light are all consistent features. The coastal kitchen is meant to feel like the outdoors has moved inside, cool, open, and uncomplicated. It works best in homes with access to natural light and is often combined with open floor plans that connect the kitchen to dining and living areas without visual barriers. In Florida, the Carolinas, and coastal California, this style has become closely associated with a particular way of living that values ease and informality above formality and display. The Scandinavian kitchen. Influenced by the design traditions of Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland, the Scandinavian kitchen arrived in American homes gradually through the influence of furniture companies, design publications, and the broader popularity of Nordic design philosophy in the mid to late 20th century. It shares the minimalism of the modern kitchen but softens it with natural warmth, using light-toned woods like birch and ash, pale stone countertops, and simple but carefully proportioned forms. The Scandinavian kitchen avoids clutter at almost any cost, favoring deep drawers and closed storage that keep surfaces clear, and its color palette runs to white, soft gray, and the warm cream of natural wood. There is a precision to Scandinavian kitchen design that comes from a tradition of long, dark winters where the quality of an interior space matters enormously to daily life. Everything is considered, nothing is accidental, and the result is a kitchen that feels calm and resolved in a way that less disciplined minimal styles rarely achieve. The Mediterranean kitchen. Drawn from the residential architecture of southern Spain, Italy, Greece, and southern France, the Mediterranean kitchen brings warmth, texture, and color into a style that can feel both ancient and completely livable. Terracotta tile floors, hand-painted ceramic tile backsplashes, arched openings, and warm plaster or stucco wall finishes are all characteristic elements. Cabinetry tends toward dark or warm-stained wood, often with raised panel doors and decorative iron hardware, and countertops frequently feature tumbled or honed stone with natural variation and texture. The Mediterranean kitchen does not aspire to the precise, controlled quality of Scandinavian or modern design. Instead, it embraces irregularity, handmade surfaces, and the sense that the space has accumulated its character over time. In the American Southwest and California, where the climate and the Spanish colonial architectural tradition made Mediterranean influences feel natural, this kitchen style found a particularly receptive audience and remains a strong regional preference. The Tuscan kitchen. While the Mediterranean kitchen draws from a broad range of Southern European traditions, the Tuscan kitchen zooms in on a specific regional identity rooted in the Italian countryside. Rich warm tones, aged wood, wrought iron, and the suggestion of an old-world farmhouse somewhere in the hills of central Italy define the style. Cabinets are often finished in warm honey, amber, or deep brown stains, sometimes with distressed or glazed finishes that imply age and use. Stone countertops with natural variation, brick or stone accents on range hoods and backsplashes, and heavy ceramic pottery used as functional or decorative elements all contribute to the look. The Tuscan kitchen had a significant moment of popularity in American homes during the late 1990s and 2000s, when an idealized vision of Italian country living captured the imagination of a generation of homeowners. It is a style that requires commitment to its full vocabulary to work well, since individual Tuscan elements in isolation can feel disconnected from the warmth and coherence that makes the complete style so appealing. The eclectic kitchen. This style resists easy categorization, which is precisely the point. The eclectic kitchen is built around personal taste rather than adherence to any single design tradition, combining elements from different periods, materials, and aesthetic sensibilities in a way that reflects the specific preferences and history of the people who live in the home. Vintage hardware on modern flat front cabinets. A farmhouse sink paired with industrial pendant lights, reclaimed wood shelving alongside polished quartz countertops. These combinations would violate the internal logic of most defined styles, but in an eclectic kitchen they can work if the person assembling them has a developed sense of balance, proportion, and color. The eclectic kitchen is the hardest style to execute well and the most rewarding when it succeeds, because a kitchen that genuinely reflects the personality of its owners in an unconventional way has a quality of authenticity that no perfectly executed period-appropriate design can fully replicate. It is a style that cannot be copied, only created. The galley kitchen. Named after the narrow kitchens found on ships, the galley kitchen is defined by its layout rather than its aesthetic. Two parallel runs of cabinetry and countertops face each other across a narrow corridor, concentrating all the working elements of the kitchen into a compact and highly efficient space. The galley layout was adopted widely in post-war American apartment construction, where maximizing living space meant minimizing kitchen footprint, and it became the default configuration for millions of urban apartments built during the 1950s through the 1980s. A well-designed galley kitchen can be extraordinarily functional, since everything is within easy reach and the workflow between refrigerator, prep area, and cooking surface is short and logical. The challenge is that it feels confined, particularly without good lighting and careful attention to storage, and the closed-ended corridor format can feel disconnected from adjacent living spaces in an era when open-plan living has become the dominant residential preference. The open-concept kitchen. More than any other development in American residential design during the late 20th century, the open-concept kitchen changed how people thought about the relationship between cooking and living. By removing the walls that had historically separated the kitchen from the dining room and living area, the open-concept kitchen made cooking a social activity rather than a solitary or domestic one. The person preparing a meal could now be part of the conversation happening in the adjacent room rather than isolated behind a closed door. The kitchen island became the central organizing element of the open-concept layout, functioning simultaneously as a prep surface, a casual dining space, a social gathering point, and a visual anchor for the combined space. The style was enthusiastically embraced in new construction from the 1990s onward, and became so dominant that it reshaped buyer expectations across the entire residential market. In recent years, some architects and homeowners have pushed back, noting that an open kitchen means cooking smells, sounds, and visual clutter are always present in the main living space, and that there is something to be said for the old idea of a kitchen as a room with a door.